Before we get started, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, on the episode Fast Break, I want to introduce y'all to a couple of our sponsors. First, the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organizations. I get my words out right. Players play to hope so many different outcomes, whether the play is playing to get filmed to try for professional teams, big time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Wherever you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. You can find us on social media at SoCal Warriors at Twitter, on Instagram, Southern California _Warriors, and on Facebook, Southern California Warriors. Background Check International. Are you looking to background check a new hire on? Let Kit Freeman take care of that for you. Kit founded and has managed Background Check International since 1994, and he's here to help you with the screening process. Contact Kit and let him make the hiring process that much easier. This business is used for professional background checks and not for the use of any crime such as identity theft or any other illegal activity. You can find it on social media at Background Check International, BCI, or also on their website, bcint.com. Now on to the show. On tonight's show, we review or go over, discuss, whatever you want to call it, the Duke Carolina game and how North Carolina spoiled Coach K's last game of his coaching career at Cameron. Plus, we'll go over all the scores of college basketball, who's on the bubble, who needs to have a strong tournament week, and whose job's on the line. Plus, let me get y'all gears running in the mind right now. What job y'all ever have in college basketball? Louisville or Maryland? Tough choice. I'll let y'all think about that. Plus, NBA scores and news. That and much more here on Fast Break, live on speaker for IE Sports Radio. Your direct feed for that is All Sports, and you're welcome to join us. And join us as you shout tonight, ladies and gentlemen. A jam-packed show here tonight. Lots to go over. The college basketball season has come to an end. Lots of good games happened over the weekend. Alabama, LSU, Memphis, Houston, Carolina, Duke, Kentucky women's beating South Carolina on the last second 3-point shot. Lots of things to discuss, all that. D-Lock, how you doing tonight, sir?
Doing very well, man. It's been an interesting time going right now. College is going on good, and NBA is getting in the thick of things as well. Exciting Lakers game last night.
Yeah, very exciting Lakers game last night. Let's discuss that real quick before we head to the college side of things. LeBron had a season high of 56 points. Play out of his mind. They played very close again and beat the Cavs this time around. We know, D-Lock, we heard the stories about Russ and not coming back and all that good stuff. And the Warriors has been kind of on the slide here lately. Do you think this game's a momentum booster for the Lakers in your eyes?
I hope so. I feel like this is a game that they needed. Now I did see the point spread before, and it was like a 3-point spread, which I didn't believe because the Warriors have been playing so well. The Lakers have been playing so terrible. But they came to play, and they played exceptionally well. So for me, I think that it is a big motivating factor for them, and it could help them moving forward. Now, what they do with Russ and how they move around that situation is going to determine a lot. But I definitely expect for that to be a motivating thing for the Lakers. LeBron's playing like it's his third or fourth year in the league. If the Lakers weren't as bad as they have been, he could be an MVP talk just by the numbers that he's been putting up all year long. But that's a different topic for a different day. But for me, I definitely think it's a motivating thing.
I think, LeBron shot the ball very well last night. 19-31, 6 for 11 for 3-point land, 10 rebounds, and of course, the 56 points. And he played great, but I think it's more like on the Warriors side of things, they kind of really taking a slide here. Not like a big slide, but they played so well early in the season, and then come February, they hit some rough patches. You get Klay Thompson back, but like some games, D-Lock, he's played great. He's okay. Other games, like last night, 3 for 13, 1 for 5 for 3-point land, 7 points. And I know he's still trying to get his legs under him, but it's still kind of getting there for him. I mean, Steph Curry, he had 30 points. Wiggins just had 14. But I think the key thing for them, not having Draymond in the fold, missing his, attributes, not just scoring, but defense, spacing the floor, passing, adrenaline, stuff like that. I think you kind of missed that last night, and I think if he was there, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but he would probably kind of help slow LeBron down, last night.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about it is that definitely would have played a part, and it just seems like Warriors have a few injuries, and they'll get things back to where they need them, but it's like they have so many guys. They're kind of not necessarily in the same situation as Boston been for a long time as far as who's going to take the majority of shots for them. But they can literally, and this is what's going to make them so dangerous with it, when Wiseman comes in, they can literally have 3 or 4 guys standing at the 3-point line and drain them at any point. So they have that already as an add piece. Draymond is that defensive pressure that they need. Him, also Andre Iguodala. So when you do miss those kind of pieces, now you kind of get exposed. I mean, we talked about Ben Simmons all year long, about, he doesn't need to be in Philly. We need to go ahead and make that change. Well, when we did see him disappear for the longest, Philadelphia defense kind of wasn't the same as it was when he was on the court. And I think it's the same thing with the Warriors. So for me, I definitely think that we are going to see an improvement once they get fully healthy. But I definitely tip my hat to the Lakers for playing the way they did, because that was definitely something that was huge that they definitely needed moving forward.
And we'll put a bone on this before we get to Coach K and Duke and all that. They need something, D-Lock. The Lakers need something. I'll let y'all in the chat, just talk amongst yourselves. But they need something. I don't think they're going to find it in the rest of this year. But they need some motivating factor to kind of get out the play-in game, and try and get themselves in the 6th seed at least. But the way they've been playing, and the way like some teams like Portland, New Orleans, they have 4 games in a row. They've been kind of rolling and figuring things out with McCollum in the fold now. It's just you gotta find some motivating factor. And if it has to be like, can we leapfrog the Clippers? We know we're better than the Pelicans and the Blazers. Use those factors and trying to at least get to the 60. I know it's gonna be an uphill battle. Trying to get to that point. As I look at the standings right now, it's gonna be pretty hard trying to string some good wins to kind of catch up to Denver and Dallas. But if you can, hey, awesome. But if not, at least put yourself in a good position come playoff the playing game that you get a favorable matchup against a team you can beat. I think the Lakers prefer to see the Warriors because they have matched up with them pretty well over the course of the season. Because I don't think you don't want to see Memphis. And with the way John Morant been playing, MVP type this year against a struggling Russ. And I know you sound DJ Augustine, but John Morant don't give a damn about all that. He's gonna cook your ass regardless. If I was the Lakers, try to get to the 6th seed. Hopefully the Warriors stay at 3, and that'd be your best matchup odds for come playoff time.
Yeah, I agree there. You want that matchup to be the best option that you have right now, being the fact that the Warriors are kind of reeling in injury as well. So, for me, I think that would be the best option. But they got to get healthy, man.
Yeah.
Like, the Lakers got to get healthy. Like, that's just what that is. A couple of these different issues that they have, they just have to, get over and get situated. To be honest, but they need to figure out what they're gonna do with Russ too. Like, I would at some point, I'd be like, look, dude, like, you got to come off the bench. Like, that's just what that is. But again, he won't be back next year more than likely. So it'll just go as such. And have, like I said, going into the playoffs with LeBron James, they're gonna have high expectations.
And we'll leave it there. And we'll touch on the Lakers here in about a couple weeks and see how the NBA season progresses. Because right now, D-Lock, I think it's about one of the happiest times as a sports fan. One of the happiest times if you're a big basketball fan. Conference tournament week that leads into the NCAA tournament that's coming in about next week. But we're going to lead off with this, D-Lock. Coach K, Mike Krzyzewski, very long career at Duke. Y'all know the story. He's been there since the 80s. He has coached countless All-Americans. Christian Laettner, Trajan Langdon, Jason Williams, Shane Battier, Mike Dunleavy, Sheldon Williams, J.J. Redick, Brandon Ingram, Jahlil Okafor, Zion Williamson, and the list can go on and on and on. Before we talk about the game, D-Lock, did you have any thoughts about Coach K's last game at Durham? Do you feel like, did you care? Or like, do you tune in to get the feeling, anything like that? What were your thoughts about Coach K's last game at Durham, at Cameron Arena?
I mean, to be honest, man, it tells me that we're getting older.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I thought is watching this guy for the longest. Because to be honest, college football was like one of the bigger sports that I paid a lot of attention to. But when I did pay attention to college basketball, the biggest rivalry that I heard about the most growing up was Duke and North Carolina. So knew about Coach K being the USA basketball head coach. So these things were something that I remember as a kid, and just thinking that, you know how you always think that, well, good things will always happen, it will never end. Well, they do. You would never think that we would see, Duke being coached by a different coach than Coach K. I thought that was going to be like a forever thing. So it was very different, and kind of like a wow moment to me. But it's clearly, they have high expectations there, and I expect who they were replacing with to have same expectations.
John Shire.
But it was something that was, it was something definitely that was a big shocker to me.
I guess my feelings with Coach K's last game there, it took a while, and like you mentioned, like us getting older and stuff, it took a while for like me to get there. Because let's be real, I don't know if you're in this camp or what, but I was growing up, I didn't like Duke at all. I didn't like him. I'm one of those people, it's just like, I mean, yeah, you can recognize he's a great coach and stuff like that, but, it's just like, yeah, you're great and all, but I just don't like you. I just kind of hate what you represent in a sense at one point. I just kind of, it's not just like Duke as a program, D-Lock. It's just like when you're watching the games and stuff on ESPN, for example, you just hear the nut hugging that these commentators do. They'll talk about the guy at the very end of the bench, like, oh, he deserved a reward, be so loyal to Duke and stuff like that. Like, shut up. But
I agree.
But I think the tide turned for me for him when he started coaching Team USA. When he started coaching Team USA and he started going for the one and done route and getting guys that he normally didn't recruit at Duke. And let me tell y'all something. Before Coach K went to the one and done route, more heavy, when he recruited guys, and especially the black kids, they had it come from a 2-parent home. This is true. So like your Grant Hills, Jay Williams, Sheldon Williams, Dante Jones, who else I'm taking? Nolan Smith, those guys. If they come in single parent home, regardless how good they are, Coach K back in the day probably won't look at them. And I think, once he started coaching the Team USA ball, and then he changed his recruiting style, he had to change that up because he got to keep up with the Joneses. In a sense, D-Lock. He saw what Cal was doing at Kentucky. Kansas. North Carolina to a degree, but they weren't getting recruits like that. So he had to change up that style. And then you see the Brandon Ingrams, Jaleel Okafers, R.J. Barrett, Zion Williamsons, Marvin Bagley's, Jarabi Parker's. He came for a 2-parent home, but get my drift. So for me, for him, I'm kind of glad he kind of changed things up. In a sense, if you're gonna you're gonna stay the best, you gotta recruit the best. You gotta change your tactics. And for me, he has changed up his styles pretty well enough that, he is where he is right now. And you can't really deny that.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is that approach, that we're talking about. It definitely makes a difference. So you had that one and done mentality. How are you going to build for a championship? Honestly, it's very tough to do that. Now, granted, we've talked about before, basketball is a hell of a lot different than football, to where you might get you a couple guys and build over time. But man, basketball, you get you one star and you add another one on the next year, or add a couple the following year. You might have you a powerhouse for that, for 2 years, 2 or 3 years. But if you're going, well, hey, you're going to be here 1 year, this is Duke, and then you're going to leave, where does it pan out for the better? So, like you said, and this is not something that once you do it 1 year, like you see the difference just that 1 year. It shows over time. And this is the reason why we've seen Duke slowly, get worse and worse over time. They've been pretty solid, but they're not the Duke that we've known for the longest. So, and when you take that, the way to go about it that way, the one and dones, this is what you get. So, but again, maybe this is the perfect time for him to hang it up. Have somebody else come in and get this program back to where we all know. I mean, we know basketball sports are a lot funner when we see those key franchises or key universities playing very well. And Duke is one of them in college basketball. We would love to see them be very good, as we've seen them in the past.
And when John Shire take over the program come next year, we'll talk about the game here in a second. I think for John Shire, he's got to keep it going. Because I think for Duke, you can't let things, go bad in a sense. Now, what I mean by that, just look at your rival across the road at North Carolina. Ever since D. Smith retired back in the 90s, you had you had some so-so years until you brought Roy Williams in the fold and things got stabilized. Look at UCLA. I never blew bud. Things be kind of. I mean, things have gone well for UCLA, and you think being out in LA, being in that area, the history, the lineage, all that stuff, you would think in hindsight, D-Lock, okay, this should be a great job. For some reason, coaches don't stick there. For some odd reason. Now, Cronin has done a good job since he's been out there. They're 23-6 so far this season. But we've seen that with Steve Alford, Ben Howland. They all had success there, but for some reason don't stick for the long term. Now, for Kansas, I think they had one of the better transitions for Roy Williams to Bill Self. Great move right there, in my eyes. But Indiana, they had some rough patches. Mike Davis, Tom Crean, Sean Miller. We'll see what Mike Woodson does. So I hope for Duke's sake that Shire is that guy. Or Coach K thinks John Shire that guy. Because if he ain't, then you be trying to go for some few years so you get your right guy in there.
Well, the thing is also, like I said, we're talking about franchises or universities that we know. Like one thing I realized, even with like a Florida State, in football or Bama or a lot of these big time universities, they usually go to somebody who has the history of the university, knows the history, or somebody that can understand the history and know what it means in big rival games. So uh, I'm expecting, Duke, man, for them to press forward and see what it's the same thing with Juwan Howard going to Memphis. I mean, I'm sorry, not Memphis, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what Michigan is about. He knows the expectations. He knows how important it is. So with that being said, those things, it's easier to hire somebody like that, and also know, well, this is the expectation of a Michigan or a Duke or LSU or anything like that. So expectations are still going to be high, and it's just, can they get to these expectations? And hopefully they can, because what happens is, if not, now you put yourself in a situation where you said you have to hire, got to get somebody else. So, but to replace a Coach K is going to be a tough job for anybody.
And shout out to Adam Cardick in the chat, who does our weekly Chicago show every Monday. He brought up a good point. Porter Moser took the job at Oklahoma. Oklahoma was kind of so-so. Porter Moser took Loyola Chicago to the Final Four a couple years ago. They transitioned to Drew Valentine. He kept credit to Drew Valentine. They won the Missouri Valley title today. But things didn't slow down, though. That's what I'm trying to get at. Drew Valentine kept things going. Regardless of mid-major or whatever, he kept things going. And I think if any coach, if I use Alabama for example, yeah, Avery didn't have it could have been better with Avery Johnson, but Nate Oates kind of took what he had and kind of built on a little bit and did great things last year. This year, a lot of ups and downs. But you gotta find the sustainability to have your program consistent year in, year out. Like, I'm not the biggest John Calipari fan, D-Lock. I'm really not. I think he's a weasel and a snake oil salesman. But I give credit as due. Wherever he's been at, UMass, Memphis, Kentucky, he's always been consistent. Always been consistent. Always have high expectations. I think he should have had more title wins, but I think he's been more consistent in that sense. In my again, now he's been consistent. So, like you pointed to, like you mentioned, like Florida State football. Jimbo left. Bring in Willie. Willie didn't work out. Brought in Jay Norvell, Coach Norvell. Yeah, I thought he would do great there, but things ain't going so hot. And may set that program like years down the road. Same thing like Auburn football. Get rid of Gus. Itching to get rid of Gus. You bring in Brian Harrison down there at Auburn. And God dog, that's a hot mess down there at Auburn. But if you find the right guy, if John Shire could be that guy to carry Duke for the next success for the next 30 years, God bless him. But if not, it could set the program back a little bit. What you think about that?
And that's what usually happens. And it happens with a lot of programs. It happens with. It's more so known in football, but it's also done in basketball as well. You know, you go get you somebody who, is, you know, not necessarily off the street, but somebody that doesn't have too many ties to the university. And now we're looking at, wow, okay, this is a different experience. They try to get things back in order, but it's very hard to do that, man. And what happens is because of that, now you have a situation where you got universities, you have fans, alumni upset because things are not panning out how they thought they would. So for me, I've seen it entirely too many times. So and then you're gonna have situations like FSU where, hey, the coach who has ties may leave, but you may have to replace them with somebody that is still has some type of ties to the university, or have somebody on the staff that's ties to the university. And I think that plays a part. So I think that, and we're going to see this moving forward with a lot of universities. And also to add to that, this is the reason why we see so many of these coaches coach for so long. Like they won't, you know, they'll continue getting these extensions, even if you may see them not necessarily be super successful or winning titles consistently back to back, but they'll consistently get extensions because the universities are comfortable, the alumni, the fans are comfortable with what similar expectations and what these universities are doing, you know, in their respective conferences and in their sports. So, you know, in case anybody is wondering, well, damn, like, why we've had this coach for so long, they need to start over. Well, that's one of the reasons why, because it's very hard to replace these coaches that know everything about the school and know how important it is for a Bama and Auburn game, or a Florida and Florida State game, or a prime example what we're talking about, Duke in North Carolina. So that's something that plays a huge part, and definitely, like I said, I think again back to the main point, like we've seen these coaches be here for so long, Coach K, and now to see him, you know, have his last game against North Carolina, and to take the loss that they did was a big shocker, but also like, dang, like time really is flying.
Yeah, time's really flying, and I know time's really flying on this college season, D-Lock. So much so, we're in conference tournament mode now. And, you know, let's go through it real quick. The first set of games come Tuesday from the conference tournaments here. The big conferences right now. Starting Tuesday for the ACC up in New York. You got Boston College versus Pittsburgh. You know, NC State, Clemson, and Georgia Tech with Josh Pastner, who talks like a man who may be out of a job, but they say he's going to stick around. In Louisville. D-Lock, we talk about Coach K and his longevity at Duke, even at his late age, like the past 5 years. Louisville's been kind of in a little hailstorm in my eyes.
Yes.
And I brought this question to you, and I brought this question to before we started the show. Louisville's a great basketball job. The people in Kentucky love their basketball. I asked the question to y'all in the chat. And I asked the question to you, D-Lock. Which basketball job will y'all ever have? The state condition is right now. You got Louisville that's 12-18. As we sit right now. You go to the Big Ten. You got a Maryland team that's 15-16. Both strong basketball programs over the years. Great talent, strong fan bases. Which job would y'all have, Louisville or Maryland? We talking about longevity and Coach K and stuff like that. If you had to choose, which job would y'all have, Louisville, Maryland? I'll let you speak on it.
Well, for one, you're looking at let's look at one of the biggest things when they considering either one of these programs. You're looking at Maryland in the Big Ten, and then you're looking at Louisville in the ACC. So we want to just go off of, let me double check Big Ten teams really quick because I know it's a lot of them, but it's just a few, so I just want to. So you have your Michigan, you have Illinois, Ohio State, Iowa, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Penn State. So you have some pretty competitive teams, and not just in the conference, but more so overall. These teams, we definitely see them make big moves in the tournament. We've seen them have a lot of upsets as well, or we've seen them pull off a lot of upsets. So that conference isn't really bad. Now we go to the ACC. You got a Duke, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Miami, Wake Forest, Virginia, VTech, Syracuse, Clemson, Pitt, Georgia Tech, and NC State. And we added in Boston College. If I wanted to pick a more, for one, I think this is more clear for me. I believe that the ACC is a way more competitive, basketball-wise, than the Big Ten. They can go hand to hand for a while, but hell, you got a couple of teams in there that will pull out some upsets. So, if I really had to choose, I feel like the longevity is something important, because to be able to coach any team, you want to have that longevity, which is, one of the most important things that any coach wants. And for me to have a Maryland job wouldn't be bad. I mean, you're in a great area where you're going to get hella recruits. You're in a pretty decent competitive conference, so you're going to have to give them basically a rundown of the conference, let them know that Maryland is one of the better teams. And also, the biggest thing, too, that I think many people overlook when it comes to Maryland is their basketball history. I mean, a lot of people don't know, what Maryland has done, especially getting the championship at 2002, being in the Final Four a couple times, being in the Sweet 16 so many times, and with so many appearances in the NCAA tournament. So this team is a team that can be very competitive in a less competitive conference, in my eyes. And I think that the fact that you have that security, I think you have more security at Maryland. So for me, and more so up north, I like the fact that I'm pretty sure getting recruits, you see a lot more basketball players or better basketball players, or you have a better chance of getting better basketball players at a Maryland than a Louisville. Still tough, but I see Maryland being a higher ranked team in their conference than Louisville in ACC. So for me, I'm definitely liking the Maryland basketball team, because you're looking at a team that can be competitive for a long time and also have that longevity which is needed. So Louisville, they're just in a tougher conference that can definitely hurt a lot of things recruit wise, and then the longevity there is not. I don't think the security wouldn't be as good there as it is in Maryland, just because of the competitive nature of that conference.
I've been thinking about this. Like, it's tough right now. I look at location. Okay, you talking about Maryland in the DMV area. You know, lots of high regard recruits have come out of that area. Cam Durant, Michael Beasley, just name a couple guys. You talking about those guys that came out of this area. Kentucky, with Louisville, you know, you have some names come out, but more on base, you recruiting more out of state to get to your school. So I look at the opposite that way. Conference-wise, in the Big Ten, like Taron Rodriguez mentioned, it's tough. You mentioned about Juwan Howard in Michigan. He was the belle of the ball last year. And now, look at this year. Now, granted, they got the big win against Ohio State today. Great job for them. And great job by Phil Martelli, kind of holding the fort till Juwan Howard comes back in conference tournament play. But look at Juwan Howard in Michigan. From last year to this year, different story. Hell, look at Wisconsin losing to lowly Nebraska by 1 point. And, you talking about a Nebraska. This off topic real quick about Nebraska. As y'all know, I used to live in Nebraska. My dad was in the military. His last stop was in Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska. I have never seen the men's team be very good. I have played with guys and played against guys that should have been at the University of Nebraska, to be honest with you. But since Creighton, and we go back to what we were talking about, my success and longevity and all that stuff, Dana Altman did a great job up there at the time we're at the Missouri Valley Conference, recruiting, getting the guys young, and building up that program from the ground. Compared to Nebraska, that's changed coaches multiple times, do not recruit in state, and sucked for years on end. I know they had a couple good seasons sprinkled in there, but they sucked. Case in point, a kid that plays for Wisconsin named Chucky Heron, who played at my old high school alma mater, from Nebraska. 5-star talent. He goes to Wisconsin. And that's to keep that kid local. That ain't Creighton local. But you can't get that kid in Nebraska. Kind of goes back to Maryland here. D-Lock, I'm looking at the top Maryland recruits right now in the nation for the class of 2022. Cam Whitmore, one of the top prospects in the nation. From Severn, Maryland, is committed to Villanova. Tyrell Ward, 5-star, committed to Xavier. Rodney Rice, 4-star, committed to Virginia Tech. A big man named Faviar Ari, 7-footer, committed to Miami. Bryce Lindsey from Baltimore, committed to South Carolina. That's some very talented kids I just named off right there, D-Lock. And that's the class 2022. And I think if you can keep those kids in state from Maryland and maybe reach into Virginia and maybe New York to grab a kid, I think you do a lot with that program. Compared to Louisville, who you got to go out and recruit and stuff like that. And I know they had the budget and stuff to do it, but Louisville has been kind of a hot mess for the past few years with the Rick Pitino stuff up till now. It's kind of been a hot mess. Whoever's been the head coach. I think with Maryland, kind of like what Taryn brought up, yeah, it's going to be a dogfight with the Big Ten. But if you can keep that talent in, especially in that DMV area, year in, year out, don't let nobody else like a Villanova, Duke, Carolina, Louisville, Kentucky trying to come in and get them. I think it'll go a long way for your program. So if I had to pick a place, I kind of the same boat with you. I go in Maryland because, like you mentioned, you seem like you have more job security in Maryland. Now, granted, the expectation is about the same. They're real high as well. They love their basketball. Because, like I said, about Louisville, it's kind of like a hot mess right now. But with Maryland, with Michigan State kind of sleepwalking, Michigan sleepwalking, Rutgers just being Rutgers. Penn State ain't really a basketball school. I think you stay in that top half, I think you be pretty good in my eyes. What you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I feel like when you up there in that with that team, with that university, the security is a huge thing, bro. And we've seen coaches swap jobs many times, and me having the experience now, learning experience, that is one thing that I'm not trying to do. When I first got into coaching, I don't know what you thought, but when I first got into coaching, I thought that, hey, I was going to volunteer or coach one spot and then just go somewhere else right after. Nah, that's definitely not the case. Especially on the college level, because you're going to get some freshmen in or some sophomores in any sport, and you're like, damn, I can, get them to be much better next year. I want to see them grow. So you start to, understand that you have a lot of potential in some of the athletes that you have. So to quickly go somewhere else is not something that you want to do. So that security is very huge. And especially when it comes to a sport like basketball or football, to where you're going to possibly have guys for, 2 or 3, even 4 years. Now, we do see a lot of basketball players leave after 1 year, but you got some guys that stay, for a couple of years, and you want to see them progress. So security thing is huge in any sport, any team. And, we agree on that part. Is I definitely don't want to go somewhere where my job is always on the line every year. Because first, when you do get the credentials and the resume to be a coach, of course you can coach at different schools, but nobody's trying to go from one school to drop to a totally different one they don't want to be at. Like, it's just too much that you don't want to experience. So, like I said, I feel like Maryland job with those different recruits there, that can make a big difference, especially coaching.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it's more coaching and kind of setting the tone and expectations and whatnot, and kind of having an administration from your athletic director, your school president, whatever, kind of having to be on the same wavelength, all that stuff. I think that goes along. I think if all those people have those same things in mind, I think it'll go a long way for them. Like, I look at the Maryland women's team. Very good sustainable program. Keep most of the girls in state, and they've done wonders. Very good program. The men's, they're still trying to find their footing. But I think if you got to bring in somebody, you got to bring in somebody that loves that East Coast area and knows that area. Not just, Washington, D.C. on that area, but Virginia, Philly, Jersey, New York. So, gotta bring somebody that loves that area. Now with Louisville, there's been rumors that they're looking at Nate Oates Nate Oates. I don't see that, but stranger things have happened. But he got a nice class coming in next year that to go along with the players possibly coming back with Alabama. I don't see it. But stranger things have happened. And Louisville's a more basketball school than football school. So, and he could get what he wants compared to what he get at Alabama. I don't know. But we'll see how things shake out for these two programs. We'll see who's more rumored for the jobs here in the coming weeks. But before we go, D-Lock, conference tournament play and be kicking in Tuesday. Who do you think these have a strong tournament, conference tournament, to kind of make this stuff look good for the NCAA committee?
It's a few teams that we talked about. Remember we talked about those NCAA teams on the bubble.
Mm-hmm.
It's a few of them that definitely need to show that what they can do. If you ask me, I don't try to be too biased, but Florida just has to be one of the teams. You have to show something in this conference, in the SEC, to let them know that you are gonna be competitive. When the opportunity rises. So Florida is definitely one. Indiana. I think Indiana has to have a strong conference play as well. Very strong. We have the obvious in the Michigan, North Carolina, but I believe that Indiana is one of the teams that not many has talked. I think that they need to. Right now, I don't think they're one of the teams that get in, but if they can show a good conference play, maybe it helps. Helps them moving forward. And also Memphis.
Yeah.
They definitely need to be a team that is going to have to show what they can do in their conference as well. So it's a few, but those just are the ones that really stick out to me because I know that if they can show something, we know Florida's been inconsistent. Indiana as well, even though they're like on the bottom end. Michigan and Memphis have been kind of inconsistent. So this conference play is going to tell a lot.
I think for me, real quick, you mentioned about Indiana. I think if they can string a couple wins, I think they might sneak in, and they probably need help from like teams like you mentioned, like a Florida going out early to kind of help with their place. I think Michigan too. I think Juwan Howard got to show good faith in the committee's eyes and win a couple games and kind of build some momentum to kind of, get their names back in there. Where else I'm going with? North Carolina, I think them winning against Duke Saturday kind of has put them in right now to go along with Duke and Notre Dame. Virginia, I know they won today, but I think, another win will probably help their case as well. And I think FSU's kind of that same boat. In a couple of games, I think they'll be in. Where are we going? For the Big 12, real quick, TCU has some strong wins at home in this home stretch of games, but their road record ain't been so hot. But I think if they had to go to a deep run, like at least semifinals, to get that thumbs up in for that committee to show them, to let them in. Iowa State, same thing. I think, if they string some wins, I think they'll possibly get in. Going to the SEC real quick. Like you mentioned, Florida. I think, it's been weird with White as coach there. I'll throw this in. And I know they ain't going to make the tournament unless they win the conference tourney. But, Cuzzo, he got to win a couple games. Kind of shows good faith. I love Cuzzo Martin. But if he wins a couple games, I think it kind of saves his job. I ain't so much like getting to the tournament because they won't get in like that. But if he win a couple games, this is more like saving his ass, for a job. I just throwing that out there real quick. Pac-12. Boy, what a fall from grace for Oregon State, who made the Elite Eight last year and then come back in 327 for the year. God dog, that's pathetic. That's about bad as Georgia and Tom Crean. But anyways, I don't know how many teams Pac-12 will get in, D-Lock. Oregon, Washington State on the bubble right now. We'll see how those two teams will shake out. But between one of those two teams, whoever has the stronger tournament showing, I think they'll get in. I agree with you, Terrence. Oregon, yeah, they hang on by a thread. Yeah. And Oregon got hopes on other teams lose along the way to kind of get them in. And then I can go, let's see, Mountain West real quick before we head out the show. Mountain West, really underrated conference that we ain't talked too much about this season. But, UNLV, I think if they have a strong showing, I think they'll get in. But a lot of teams, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of teams got to hope certain teams fall and stuff like that to kind of get in. So it's going to be a real interesting tournament week. Not this Tuesday because a lot of the scrub teams are playing, but come Wednesday, Thursday, that's when you're going to see, some heavy-hitting games. But this has been our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in with us tonight. Next week's show will be a good one. It'll be Selection Sunday. Going to have some special guests sprinkled in. Talking about, their colleges, what they expect, and how they're going to do in the tournament and whatnot. So Sunday show is going to be like a big one. So I think we're going to be real excited about that. So no NBA talk come next Sunday. Strictly college basketball. D-Lock, how can people find you on social media real quick?
You guys can find me at Black-813. Twitter and Instagram. That's definitely where I'll be at. I don't know where they can find you at, man.
Find me on Twitter at Spawn4288. That's Spawn4288. Also, do follow us on Twitter at FastBreak.IESR. That is FastBreak.IESR. Let's Wind About Sports with Mike Pat is right behind us. I'm pretty sure he'll be talking about some tournament ball here on his show. Plus, do check out IESportsRadio.com to catch up the playback on this show and all the other shows in the network as well. And then, like I said, next week's going to be a very big one for us. So please do tune in. And also, do want to shout out to the fan of the month. I forgot to do his name. Spuzz Chat, he's a Rams fan from San Diego. Shout out to him being our fan of the month. Thank you for donating your time and money to Patreon. And thank you for supporting us here at IE Sports Radio. But tune in, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back next week. Selection Sunday is going to be a doozy. And we're out.